Hello, my grounded and radiant Taurus soul. Welcome back, where we don't simply read stars. We translate them into soul maps, meant to guide you through the densest forests of confusion and into the wide, open fields of purpose. I invite you now to pause, to gently set aside the weight of the day, to feel the quiet hum beneath your feet, because what you are about to hear is not fleeting advice nor a charming horoscope to entertain the mind. For a moment, this is an ancient frequency breaking through the surface of your life, one that was buried long before you were born and is now calling your name like a song only your soul can recognize. And I want you to receive this not with logic, but with presence, because this is not about what you think you need, but what you know you've always deserved. We are now standing on the edge of a rare and sacred alignment, a moment so cosmically dense that its energetic blueprint has not graced this planet in over 2.5 centuries. And while some may hear that and think of grand fireworks or dramatic lightning bolts from the sky, you, Taurus, you must remember that your power is not in the loudness of things. It is in the slow, steady pulse of what endures beneath the noise, in the scent of soil after rain, in the stillness of the oak that has survived 100 storms. And so when the stars align for you, they do not come crashing into your field of vision. They arrive as a quiet knowing, as a feeling you can't ignore, as an ancient hum in the roots that asks you not to move faster, but to become deeper. Before we go any further, I ask you this: are you ready to let go of the illusion of safety that has kept you small? Are you truly willing to release the idea that comfort is the same thing as security? Because if you are ready to stop mistaking stagnation for stability, then I invite you to declare it, softly or boldly, with your voice or with your breath, or by simply writing in the comments below. My time is rooted in truth. Say it not as a wish, but as a truth your body already knows. Because Taurus, the universe cannot deliver what you are not willing to claim. And this message is only activated when it is received with courage. And so we begin not with a prophecy of what will fall into your lap, but with an unveiling of what already lies beneath your feet, waiting. This first revelation is not about the stars above, but the riches below, the deep untapped wealth that lives in the unseen layers of your life. And it begins with a once-in-a-lifetime handshake, a silent pact between Pluto, the transformer, and Jupiter, the expander, not in the sky's glittering surface, but in the deep current of your energetic roots, where legacy is built not with noise, but with endurance. But I must tell you now, this wealth will not arrive wearing gold. It will not appear as a viral success, a lottery ticket, or a glowing yes from the outside world. Instead, it will come wrapped in pressure, disguised as challenge. And if you're not paying attention, you might mistake it for a burden and walk away before you ever see what was hidden inside. It may arrive as a complicated business proposition, a role of responsibility that scares you, a leadership opportunity that feels 10 steps too big, or a situation that forces you to renegotiate your worth, and the moment you see it, your logical mind might panic, because it won't feel convenient, and it won't feel easy. And yet, at the same time, something deeper within you, the part of you that has always known you were made for more, will start to vibrate, quietly but unmistakably, because this is not a test of your intelligence or skill. It is a test of your readiness to rise. What most people will see as a locked vault, too heavy, too dense, too risky, you, Taurus, will be handed not just the chest, but the key. And that key is your willingness to stay when others flee, to carry weight others call too much, and to walk slowly and steadily into the unknown with nothing but trust in your own rhythm, your own value, your own voice. Because wealth, for you, isn't about the numbers on a screen or applause in a room. It is about sovereignty. about knowing that what you build cannot be shaken by a single season or opinion. And this is why the universe gives you heavy things, because it knows only you can turn them into legacy. So when the opportunity arrives and you feel that familiar inner voice whispering, "What if I fail?" I want you to remember that fear is not the voice of wisdom, it is the voice of memory, echoing from old versions of yourself who didn't yet know their power. And now that you do, you must not let the ghost of yesterday hold the door closed on the miracle of today. Let this be the mantra that anchors you. I do not chase what is mine. I stand still. And it arrives rooted are the clays. And so this first revelation ends not with an outcome, but with an opening a portal in the soil of your life, where something ancient and powerful is beginning to awaken. And what you choose to do with this awareness will shape not only your bank account, not only your home and livelihood, but the very way your soul walks forward into the rest of your timeline. Now that the foundation has been stirred, now that the vault of wealth buried in your soul has begun to hum with the tremble of awakening, we must turn our gaze inward, toward a realm often misunderstood and so easily romanticized the heart. And yet for you, Taurus, love has never been about fantasy. It has always been about home. It is not a thing you chase, it is a feeling you return to, like a familiar scent in spring, like soil warmed by memory. You do not seek flattery, you seek truth. You do not long for sparks, you long for a fire that warms through winter. And now, as the cosmos whispers to your chest, to that sacred chamber of longing and loyalty, you are being called to recognize something ancient in someone new, or perhaps something awakened in someone old. There is a planetary movement weaving through the sky now, not with urgency, but with an almost holy softness, a convergence of Venus, your ruling planet of love and beauty, and Neptune, the planet of soul memory and divine connection, all electrified by Mars, which does not flirt but commits. And while these alignments may feel abstract, they are not. They are frequencies, playing on the strings of your emotional body like a long-lost melody. This is what I call the soul mirror activation. And for Taurus, it will not be a story of butterflies or flirtations, but of sacred remembrance. You may soon find yourself standing in front of someone, a stranger whose eyes seem to know your secrets, or a familiar figure whose voice carries a different weight, and the moment you do, it will not feel like a beginning. It will feel like a continuation, a story interrupted long ago and now being resumed without explanation, because none is needed. Your mind may ask questions: how, when, where, why now, but your body, your breath, your bones will answer, "I remember." But here, Taurus, is where the truth deepens, for in this cosmic moment, the veil between illusion and essence becomes paper thin, and even your steady discernment may tremble. Not all that glitters is gold, and not every magnetic pull is a soul calling. You are wise. Yes, but even the wise can mistake intensity for intimacy. The universe, in its infinite care, may place two mirrors in front of you, one that flatters and one that reveals. One connection may look perfect, soothing, charming, sweet. They say the right words, paint the right pictures, make you feel seen, but only on the surface. They adore your light, but are blind to your shadows. They worship your calm, but cannot hold your storm. This is not inherently false, but it is incomplete, and incomplete love, no matter how pretty, will always leave your soul hungry. The other connection, Taurus, will not shimmer, it will burn. Their presence will stir something inside you that feels ancient and unexplainable, even inconvenient. You will feel vulnerable, possibly exposed, and at moments, unsafe in the most sacred way, because you are not used to being fully seen. This person will not just reflect who you are, they will reflect who you've hidden. And still, they will stay. And still, They will reach, and still, they will listen. And so the great decision arises, will you choose comfort or will you choose growth? Will you choose the familiar caress of flattery or the unsettling touch of truth? Will you stand in the safe garden of what is easy or walk through the sacred fire of what is meant, Taurus? I must tell you, your heart was not designed for small things. You were not made for lukewarm affection, nor for transactional companionships that demand you shrink to be loved. You were born for devotion, not the kind that begs or chases, but the kind that roots, the kind that survives distance and disagreement, the kind that builds temples from ordinary days. And yet, this kind of love cannot arrive unless you have first made peace with the parts of you that you have long deemed unlovable. This is where the sacred mirror becomes real, for love, in its truest form, does not just reflect your beauty, it reflects your wounds, your patterns, your edges. And for Taurus, whose heart remembers every bruise, this can be terrifying. You may want to shut down, to protect, to close the gates and pretend you are safer alone. But the universe is asking you not to armor up, but to stay open. You see, the love that's coming, or the love that is already standing before you, is not here to complete you, but to awaken you. It will not fix your loneliness, but it will meet you inside it. It will not silence your fears, but it will sit beside them without flinching. And that, Taurus, is how you will know. There is one more truth that must be spoken here. Not all soulmates are lovers. Some are collaborators. Some are friends. Some are creative partners or mentors who spark a remembering in you. They do not arrive to possess you. They arrive to mirror your potential. But regardless of form, the soul-level connection that is rising now is here to show you the next chapter of your emotional legacy. And yes, it will challenge you. It will ask you to do the thing you swore you wouldn't trust again. Open again. Believe again. But I promise you, the reward is not a fairy tale. It is something far more sacred. It is truth. The kind you don't have to perform, the kind that doesn't waver with time, the kind that can sit through silence and still feel connected. So take heart, dear Taurus. What is meant for you will never ask you to pretend, and what's rising now will not demand performance, only presence. So stay with me. Taurus, the mirror has shown you what's possible. Now let the light come in. Now that you've stood before the mirror and dared to look beyond the surface, now that you've felt the stirrings of a connection that speaks not just to your body, but to your becoming, we must walk into the most sacred terrain of all, the terrain of grief. Not the loud grief of mourning, but the quiet one. The invisible weight you've been carrying for so long that it started to feel like part of your body, like a shadow stitched into your posture. Like an ache you stopped naming because no one ever truly asked. Taurus, you are the keeper of stability, the anchor in the storm, the one who holds space for others even when your own chest feels tight with the things you haven't said. You were taught, perhaps by family, perhaps by life itself, that strength means not collapsing, that dignity means not complaining, that being dependable means swallowing your pain before it spills into someone else's day. But I am here to tell you that silence is not always noble. Sometimes it is a wound that pretends to be stillness. Sometimes it is a scar disguised as maturity. And now, the universe, with infinite compassion, is asking you to stop pretending that you are not tired. There is a cosmic current, subtle yet relentless, rising within the collective soul of Taurus. It is not asking for noise, nor demanding urgency. It is simply illuminating what has long been hidden. And at the heart of this alignment is Chiron, the wounded healer, making direct contact with Pluto, the soul surgeon. This is not a soft bomb. This is not a motivational mantra. This is deep cellular purification. And it begins when you finally admit, I cannot keep holding this alone. The ache in your shoulders, the tightness in your jaw, The weight in your chest that refuses to lift, no matter how much you rest. These are not random symptoms. They are messages, echoes of unspoken pain stored in the very tissues of your body. The betrayal you forgave but never healed from. The failure that still haunts your late-night thoughts. The parent whose voice still echoes in your choices. The parts of yourself you buried because they didn't match the version of strength the world applauded. All of it still there. But now, finally, something is shifting. You may find yourself triggered by something seemingly small, asung, a phrase someone says, and suddenly you're back in a moment you thought you'd forgotten. You may dream of a childhood home, of someone who left, of a version of yourself that feels so distant, it breaks your heart to realize how far away she's gone. These moments are not setbacks. They are remembrances. They are not asking you to relive the pain, they are asking you to witness it. Perhaps for the first time. Without minimizing it. Without rationalizing it. Without wrapping it in productivity or pretending you've already moved on. Because Taurus, you don't move on like others do. You absorb, you bury, you bloom around the bruise and call it resilience. But this time, the bloom is not enough. This time, the universe is saying, we need to go deeper. We need to take the root out. And so, the purge begins, not as punishment, but as preparation. You may feel emotionally raw, even confused. You might cry without understanding why. You might want to isolate. Or finally speak truths you've held in your throat for years. You may feel anger you thought you weren't allowed to express. Or grief that feels disproportionate to the moment. But it is not disproportionate. It is accumulated, and it is sacred. Because what you are releasing now is not just yours, it belongs to generations. For some of you, the weight comes from family stories, unhealed wounds passed down through blood and silence. For others, it is the pain of caretaking always being the one others lean on. While you stand in the rain, offering your coat. For many, it is the shame of not being enough. The guilt of resting. The fear of needing help. But I tell you this, with certainty you were never meant to carry this alone. And you don't have to anymore. This healing is not about fixing what was broken. It is about reclaiming what was buried, your softness, your safety, your sense of being held, and yes, it will feel unfamiliar. After all, when you've lived in a fortress of control for so long, stepping outside it can feel like exposure. But the walls are cracking. Taurus, not because you failed, but because you're finally safe enough to feel. And as you release this weight, something miraculous happens, not instantly, but inevitably, your body responds. The fatigue begins to lift. The inflammation softens. The breath deepens. The insomnia fades. Because grief is not just emotional, it is physiological. It doesn't just sit in your memories, it sits in your spine, your stomach, your skin, and when the energy is freed, you don't just feel lighter. You become lighter. But there is one more truth you must remember. Healing is not a performance. You do not owe anyone an explanation, a timeline, or a poetic ending. You only owe yourself honesty. And if that honesty sounds like I'm still learning how to let go, that is more than enough. And so we come to the soft closing of this chapter. Taurus, not with a grand finale, not with a crash of drums or the flash of fire, but with a hush, a stillness, the kind that only follows when something ancient within you has been seen. Today we have walked through sacred terrain together, from the silent weight of your hidden wealth, to the mirror of love that reveals more than it hides, to the ache you've carried so long it became indistinguishable from your identity. And through it all, you have remained present. That, in itself, is a miracle, because healing doesn't always look like victory sometimes. It looks like sitting with the version of yourself that you once abandoned and offering them a place at your own table. Sometimes It is not about becoming someone new, but finally honoring the truth of who you've been all along. And Taurus, that is the quiet revolution now blooming in your life. Not a sprint toward a shiny destination, but a slow, sacred returning to yourself. There will be moments in the coming days where this energy will rise, not with panic, but with invitation. An old thought will whisper, a memory will return, a person you haven't spoken to in years may suddenly appear in your dreams or in your inbox. The ache may return for one last visit, not to hurt you, but to offer its final lesson. When that moment comes, do not turn away. Breathe, witness it, thank it, and release it, because you no longer need to carry it. In our next gathering, we will walk through the doorway of liberation, the point where karmic patterns lose their grip, and where your soul begins to move freely again, unhooked from cycles you didn't even realize you were trapped in. But for now, Taurus, let this be enough that you paused, that you listened, that you softened in a world that asked you to harden. That, in itself, is a sacred act. So place one hand over your heart and one hand on the earth, and just for this moment, don't try to fix anything. Don't try to change up. Just be here with all that you are. That is where your power lives. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are becoming. Slowly, steadily, beautifully. And I will meet you again soon in the quiet field where the chains fall away. Until then, Taurus, stay soft, stay true, and stay open.